Don't worry, no one will remember what you did here. The line slid across the glassy office like a cold draft. I kept my face level as I tapped my e-signature on the severance packet glowing on Logan's laptop. 5 years of 70-hour weeks distilled into a tidy PDF and a throwaway jab. Thank you for the opportunity, I said, standing. Professional to the last second. That was the brand. I'm Dana Whitaker, Senior Systems Engineer. Or I was, 3 minutes ago. Logan barely glanced up. Sunlight poured over his designer desk, catching in the sculpted wave of his hair and the chrome fixtures we'd installed right after Series A, $10 million to scale. The product I had architected from a folding table in a rented warehouse with rattling vents and no AC. I coded through that heat, shirt sticking to my spine, while he practiced pitches in front of a dusty whiteboard. I crossed the open floor. Heads were bent over monitors. My code pulsed on half their screens. The request queue churned through modules I'd written during midnight sprints. The core, my custom authentication lattice, the thing that let us promise seamless, bulletproof security in every deck. Heading out early? Thomas called, cheerful and oblivious. Something like that. I smiled without letting it touch my eyes. My desk yielded a single canvas tote's worth of life. A small plant, my sister's family photo, the chipped mug that had survived 100 all-nighters. Funny, 5 years, and I could carry me out with one hand. Waiting for the elevator, the sting of Logan's comment turned into something else. Not anger, not yet. Clarity. They thought my work would blend into the wallpaper. But the blueprint running this place wore my fingerprints everywhere. Idiosyncratic file trees, diagram legends with shorthand only I used, annotations that made sense to me and no one else. I'd meant to write the glossy master guide for 3 years. Somehow, it never made it to the top of the list. The doors parted. As the office slipped away behind polished steel, a memory rose. My dad in the 90s, brilliant, exhausted, holding a prototype battery like a newborn. His company went public. They pushed him out and erased him from the press. Watching him fade from headlines taught me one rule: never let someone else decide whether you existed. I didn't plan to repeat his story. My NDA was clean. I'd read every comma. It locked down company secrets, but not my process. Not the encrypted backups of architecture drafts, version histories, and the paper trail of what I'd built and when. Not the time-stamped repository I began before Quantum Shift ever had a name. 3 weeks ago, when the whispers started and quick syncs moved behind closed doors, I shared those files with my attorney. On the drive home, I called her. It's done, I told Valerie Knowles. Cause listed? She asked. Need a more experienced consultant. Valerie clicked her tongue, amused. And the package? 6 months, standard NDA, nothing extra on IP. Smart to prep early, she said. The bundle you sent is thorough. Let's talk options tomorrow. The next morning marked my first late wake-up in years. No Slack pings, no pager. I brewed coffee that didn't taste like survival and drove to Valerie's office with a steadiness that surprised me. She had spread my life across a conference table. Architecture diagrams layered like topographic maps, commit logs stepping through years of decisions, email threads that placed me at the heart of the system, and most critical, the proof that the authentication framework that made our product differentiated started on nights and weekends in my apartment. Long before Logan promised investors he'd invented it. You documented like an archivist, Valerie said, impressed. Most engineers don't. My dad taught me to keep receipts, I said, tracing a finger along a diagram's lattice. He learned the hard way. What do you want to do? She gestured at the evidence, at the quiet, humming power of it. I let the question settle. I'm not wired for vendettas. I was raised to work hard, tell the truth, and build things that last. But I was also raised to name my worth. Not yet, I decided. I want to be ready. Valerie nodded. They'll come. They always do, once the reality hits. And when they do, we respond on our terms. I walked out lighter than I had any right to feel. For the first time in 5 years, my calendar belonged to me. 3 weeks later, ocean air nudged the edges of a napkin at a beachside cafe while I scanned job posts I didn't really want. My phone lit up with a name from the past. Joseph Bryant, our CTO. Dana, he said, voice lined with cheer he hadn't earned. How are you? I'm good, Joseph. What's up? Well, the team is prepping the next release, and they have a few questions about some of your architectural decisions. Wondering if you had time for a quick consultation. Consultation. Cute. I'm not sure that would be appropriate, given the circumstances of my exit, I said. We can compensate you, he added quickly. Logan may have been hasty, I repeated, tasting the word. Is that what we're calling it, Highlands? Then carefully. The documentation is specialized, I almost laughed. Specialized was polite for, we can't read Dana. I'm tied up this month, I said. Perhaps your new expert can decode it. Dana, he started. I truly wish you the best, Joseph. I ended the call. A text arrived seconds later. We can double your consultation rate. Please reconsider. I set the phone face down. Let them sit with the quiet. That night, while pasta water rolled to a boil, an email pinged from Ethan, one of my juniors, earnest and sharp, the kind of person you make time for in a crunch. Subject: You won't believe this. Dana, things are unraveling. Troy can't parse your auth system. 3 clients escalated after today's deploy. Logan's pointing fingers, but everyone knows the problem. Joseph is spiraling. I wish you were here. I lowered into a stool, the steam blurring the screen. Concern flared. Most of the engineers were good people in a bad script. But under it, a clean, steady note of satisfaction thrummed. Consequences had arrived right on schedule. My phone rang again. Valerie, Quantum Shift Legal reached out, she said, proposing a short-term consulting arrangement. That was fast. They're minimizing publicly. Privately, panic, she paused. Recommendation, let them stew. A little time tightens your leverage. After we hung up, the shift inside me was unmistakable. Power had moved. I didn't want to burn the house down, but I would not be written out of its blueprints. As the 4th week ticked by, the calls multiplied. Joseph, the more experienced consultant, even Ethan whispering that the dashboard was flickering, tickets piling up, support drowning on Twitter, and that the stock, hot after funding, had dropped 15% in a week. I kept my distance and did my homework. Met with competitors, not to beg for a badge, but to map the landscape. Checked licenses. Charted my options. On a cloudless Tuesday, exactly 1 month after I carried my life out in a tote, Logan finally called. His voice had lost its lacquer. Dana, I think we got off on the wrong foot. The board and I may have misunderstood your impact. We'd like you to come back as a consultant to help with the transition. The word misunderstood landed with a dull thud. I'm not interested in consulting, I said. Be reasonable, he pressed. We're talking 6 figures for a few weeks. I'm quite busy, I replied, echoing Joseph. Best of luck. I hung up and dialed Valerie. I'll be direct, she said, settling onto my couch like she owned the air around us. Quantum Shift is in crisis. The authentication system, your authentication system, is failing, and no one can fix it. I leaned back, arms folded. I was told they had redundancies for key departures. Her smile was tight. Logan assured us of many things. Most of them appear misleading. What came next hit harder. He presented himself as the architect of the system, positioned you as an implementer, not the visionary. A bitter laugh slipped out before I could stop it. Is that what he told you? It is. But our advisors reviewed the wreckage. The truth is obvious, you built it. He took credit. The word stung even though I'd suspected it all along. It was one thing to be dismissed. It was another to be erased. Olivia leaned forward. The board is meeting tomorrow. Logan doesn't know I'm here, but I want you there. Tell us the truth, help us salvage this. In return, your role will be properly acknowledged. I kept my expression calm. Inside, my pulse raced. My attorney has advised against engaging directly. Bring her, Olivia countered without hesitation. This isn't about backroom deals. It's about transparency. When she left, the house felt charged, like the pause before lightning strikes. I dialed Valerie immediately. This is earlier than I planned, she admitted, but it's leverage. If you attend, you're not a castaway. You're the storm walking back in. What about our original plan, the IP notice? Send it tonight. When you walk into that room, they'll already know you're not bluffing. That night, sleep was a stranger. Tomorrow, I wouldn't just be defending myself. I'd be rewriting the company's story and dragging Logan's theft into the light. The next morning, I walked into Quantum Shift headquarters with Valerie at my side. Heads turned. Whispers trailed us like smoke. In the boardroom, the table gleamed with nervous energy. Investors sat stiff, eyes sharp. Joseph looked hollow, dark crescents under his eyes. At the head sat Logan, his confidence cracked but still painted on. Olivia stood. Miss Whitaker, thank you for coming. And Ms. Knowles, welcome. Before we begin, do you have anything to declare? Valerie set her briefcase down with a clean click. Yes, we served formal notification last night. Dana retains intellectual property rights to the core authentication system. Logan's face reddened. Absurd. She signed an employment contract. Everything she did belongs to Quantum Shift. I know what I signed, I said evenly. But the foundation of that system predates Quantum Shift. I have repositories, timestamps, and emails to prove it. I plugged my laptop into the projector. The screen bloomed with GitHub logs older than the company itself, then emails from my first month, me explicitly offering my pre-built system, Logan acknowledging it, never formalizing ownership. Silence fell. The kind of silence that costs millions. Victor Lee, another investor, rubbed his temples. Logan, did you know about this? She's exaggerating, Logan sputtered. Any prototype was trivial. The real system was built on company time. Joseph's voice cut through, rough but certain. That's not true. Dana designed the architecture. Without her, we haven't been able to maintain it. Logan shot daggers at him, but the damage was done. Valerie stepped in, calm and cutting. My client isn't here to burn the company down. She wants recognition, fair compensation for her IP, and guarantees her work won't be misrepresented again. If those terms aren't met, Quantum Shift loses the right to use the system, and your product collapses. The boardroom froze. Everyone understood. Quantum Shift's valuation, their funding, their reputation, balanced on the work they'd tried to erase. The tide had turned. And this time I wasn't leaving quietly. Don't forget to subscribe for more gripping stories like this. Would you, in Dana's place, take the board's offer or push for total control? Comment below! And if you're still hooked, drop a like. It keeps the stories flowing. The board recessed for nearly an hour. I sat with Valerie in a quiet corner of the conference room, laptop closed, pulse steady now. This was no longer about survival. It was about truth, about reclaiming the story Logan had tried to steal. When the investors returned, Olivia's expression was steel. After careful consideration, she announced, the board has made several decisions. Logan leaned forward, jaw tight. First, Olivia continued, we are initiating an immediate leadership change. Logan, your misrepresentations to both this board and our investors are unacceptable. Color drained from his face. You can't be serious. I built this company from nothing. With Dana's technology, Victor Lee interjected sharply. A fact you deliberately concealed, Logan sputtered. But the room had already moved past him. Second, Olivia said, turning toward me, we are offering you the position of Chief Technology Officer with equity, fair compensation, and full recognition of your past contributions. I sat very still, heart pounding. It was more than I had expected, more than I had even dared to hope. And third, she added, we are proposing a licensing agreement for your authentication system, with royalties on all future revenue tied to it. Additionally, a public statement will be issued correcting the record, acknowledging you as the true architect. Logan slammed a hand on the table. This is insane. You're letting her hold the company hostage. I looked at him, calm. Not hostage, Logan, just accountable. There's a difference. Victor Lee leaned forward. The decision is final. You may accept a reduced advisory role or resign entirely. Logan's eyes darted around the table, searching for allies. He found none. With a sharp scrape of his chair, he stormed out, the door slamming behind him. The silence that followed was heavy, but for me, it was liberation. For the first time in weeks, I exhaled fully. 3 months later, I stood on a small stage at Quantum Shift headquarters. Reporters filled the front rows, engineers crowded the back. The company had transformed. Today marks a milestone, I began, voice steady. Not just for our product, but for how we build together, from a place of transparency and collaboration. The authentication system, once my solitary creation, now thrived under a full team. Documentation was clear, ownership shared. No more secret shortcuts, no more single points of failure. After the presentation, Olivia found me. Investors are thrilled. Customer complaints down 87%. Former clients returning. But more importantly, your leadership has been the catalyst, I smiled. It's a team effort now. That's how it should be. She hesitated, then added, "Have you heard about Logan?" I shook my head. He turned down the advisory role. Tried to start another company. But word spreads fast. Investors won't touch him. He's burned his credibility. For a moment, I felt a pang of sympathy. But just a moment. Some lessons only come at a cost. Later that evening, I received an unexpected email. It was from Logan. "Dana, I owe you an apology. I should have valued your contributions instead of dismissing them. Quantum Shift is better off in your hands." Logan and I sat there staring at the words. Not gloating, not angry, just resolved. I typed back, simple and clean. "Logan, thank you for the apology. I wish you success in your future endeavors. Send." Because this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about justice, about being remembered, not erased, about ensuring that the fingerprints I left on my work would never again be brushed aside. And in that moment, I knew I hadn't just survived. I had reclaimed everything they tried to take. If you felt Dana's victory, don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. Tell me in the comments, would you have forgiven Logan or left him in the dust?